Okay, welcome everybody. This is our third hands-on session for the Data Cloud Bootcamp. Thank you, JB, for creating and hosting this amazing event. We've got Michelle queued up today to cover data integration and mapping and unification. And we've got Lakshmi as our builder. So I will pass it off to Michelle.
Awesome. Thank you, Tim. Thanks, Lakshmi, for driving today and building. So today I wanted to get first started with just more of an admin setup or how we created, let's say, Lakshmi's user. So Lakshmi, if you go to the right in the setup icon, yep, you can click setup. And then, yes, search for users. So for creating a data cloud user, it would somewhat be like creating it is like creating a standard user, except you have to, so Lakshmi isn't a Salesforce admin, so she won't be able to create a new one. But if you could find your user and open that, should be right in the middle. See it.
Yep.
Yep, thank you. So you can see here, it's just like creating a standard Salesforce user. If you scroll down a little bit, see if you can see your permission sets. Okay, you can't. So just wanted to call out. So once you create a standard user, if you have system admin rights, you'll be able to add two permission sets here. Yep. So you can see I assigned her the Data Cloud admin permission set. There are other permission sets that you can add to a user. The reason I gave her the Data Cloud admin user or permission set was because what we're going to be working on today, so really the data streams, data mapping, and identity resolution. The admin permission set is one of the only ones that gives you access to make changes to it. If you were to give her, I believe it's the Data Cloud standard user, you can only view those configurations, those features. So we wanted to make sure that Lakshmi can edit those. So there is documentation on what each permission set grants, but just wanted to show you what that would look like for creating a new user to give them Data Cloud access. Thank you, Lakshmi. So we can go back to Data Cloud.
Can I close this one?
Yes, you can.
Yep.
Awesome. So I'm hoping that most folks here have the chance to watch last week's session. It'll make a little bit more sense. It's all right if you didn't. We'll walk through everything. But it'll just give you a little bit more of an understanding of what we're mapping. So I did want to first walk through the current data model and what we've mapped. So if you go to the Data Streams tab, Lakshmi, if you just click on, there's actually the Bootcamp data streams list view. That might just be easier since we have a lot in this work. All right, so you can see here that we have some, we've connected some CRM or objects, Amazon S3, ingestion APIs. So for our use case, we had a financial services use case where they wanted to connect their enterprise data that came from an S3 bucket, their mobile app data, which you can see are those ingestion APIs data streams, and those Bootcamp mobile app ones, yep. And then our Salesforce objects, we've already created and mapped contact and lead and account. So if you were to click on the Bootcamp enterprise data, just wanted to show you quickly what this would look like, and then we'll also walk through creating new data streams and mapping those. So this is one of our profile objects. So you can see on the bottom here, we have those data source fields. And we've created some of those formula fields in our primary key. So you see the second field, enterprise account key. If you go to the drop down to the right and just click on edit formula here. Yeah. So just a reminder, right? So we had primary keys for each of our sources, but we wanted them to be unique to each data source. So what we've concatenated here is that, just calling this our enterprise lake, just identifying our source, and then also the account number, which essentially identifies each customer. So each customer has their unique account number. So we just wanted to make sure that this was a unique primary key for once we begin mapping, and also for the identity resolution configuration. So Lakshmi, if you see in that tested value box right under, can you just add a few numbers or any characters, right? So if you can press test. It doesn't allow you to click test, I don't think. Well, when you first create the formula, you can add, a test value, and once you get that test button, it'll give you that output that should be expected. So just again, keep in mind, so when you're creating new formula fields, you can test that and see what the expected output would be. So you can press cancel. Yeah, it doesn't allow you. I think it's because it's already been created. That's all right. So you can press cancel. All right. So if you scroll up a little bit on the right-hand side, you'll see the data mapping, and click on that review button. Awesome. All right. So here you can see that we've mapped to, on the left-hand side, you'll see our enterprise data source. And then all the fields from that source coming in are the ones we wanted to pull it and map. Then on your right, you'll see all the data model objects. So I mentioned before, we have our enterprise data, it has mostly demographic data. So it's, we have our address, phone number, first name, last name, emails. So you can see that on your right, we've mapped to each of those contact point objects, as well as the individual object here. Yeah, if you stop right here, is perfect. So you can see that we've created two custom fields, right? So the account created date and the account number. And then we also have mapped the first name, last name, and then if you click on the arrow button in the middle for the individual ID field. Yeah, so if you were to just right in the middle of that arrow pointing, yeah. So here's how you'll see what each field is mapped to. So as I've mentioned, this enterprise account key, which was that formula field we concatenated to make unique to this data source, is mapped to the individual ID. So that is what's going to identify the individual, piece together other data sources with the same individual or primary key. This is how you would map a profile object to, certain attributes that you're looking to use for identity resolution, for segmentation. And then the last object here is the party identification object. So this is similar. Yeah, if you were to click on that party identification ID, again, you'll see that we've mapped to the same primary key. Again, we want to make sure that we're mapping back to the same individual so that Data Cloud could, do its magic and get that unified profile based off those matching primary keys. And if you click on right above it, the party arrow, so you'll see this one is also mapped to the enterprise account key. So the party field, and you'll see them in some of those objects, is essentially is referring to the individual. So again, this was also an important field because you want to make sure that you're mapping the primary key or, your unique identifier for that customer, for that, individual, map that back to the party field, because party field is what is referring back to that actual individual. Awesome. If you can get out of here or press close here on the right, yeah. And then go back to the data streams tabs.
Which one, sorry?
Show you, sorry, the data stream tabs. And then I will walk through we'll walk through a engagement. So if you click on the Bootcamp mobile app account creation, it's number 3. Yep. It should be an engagement, right? So you'll see that at our first the enterprise data source on your left, yeah, if you see the object category right up top, our first data stream was a profile engagement or a profile object. This is an engagement object. So when we're creating a new data stream, there's 3 different categories. There's profile, there's engagement, and then there's also other. So once we walk through actual creating a new data stream, which we'll do shortly, I can explain that a little bit more. So then if you click to on the second field here, it's the individual ID field. Yeah, if you click this, so this was a formula field as well. And if you can see here, we created a similar formula. So, right, we wanted to concatenate, right? So we're identifying this is coming from the mobile app, and you can see that each field or each user in the mobile app has what's called a user ID field. So if you click test, yeah, this worked here. You can see, right, the output would be, what we've concatenated, the mobile app text with the user ID. So again, we wanted to make sure that this was a unique primary key for the user. So you can click cancel. And then, you can click on the field mappings review button. So you see that this is a bit different than the profile object mapping that we looked at, right? So when you create a data stream, you can only map to the same object category. So if you create a profile object, you only map to profile object. I know there is some documentation out there actually that you can also map an other object category to profile and vice versa, but that's still in the design phase. So generally, you really can only, so if you create a profile object data stream, you can only map to profile objects or profile DMOs. So as we remembered, we called this out that this was an engagement object. So we can only really map to the engagement DMO. So actually, if you click on the right-hand side, there's a pencil button next to data model entities, or a little further up, yeah. So this is where you can choose the DMOs that you'd like to map to. So if you see, and if you search on, we're using the standard data model. So yeah, if you search just individual. Yeah, you can see that nothing's coming up, right? Because that's a profile object. So if you remember correctly from the previous data source that we were mapping, we chose that object. But again, so just keep in mind when you are creating new data streams, you could really only map to the same category. So we're only really could map to an engagement category. So if you click close here, bottom, yep, you'll see that we're mapping to a device application engagement DMO. So I do recommend that, Salesforce has a bunch of helpful documentation on each DMO. So it gives you a better understanding of what the object is, what the fields are included. So you can see here that we did a similar mapping. So we had a custom field account type. If you click on the arrow you can click that. So, right, you can see that we've mapped that. And then the third arrow for our primary key, the device. Again, so you'll see on our left for our data stream, we have a transaction ID. So that primary key is actually the unique ID for the engagement, for the account creation. So we are mapping the primary key to the device application engagement primary key. If you see the individual field. So again, each object has, somewhat of a field that will reference that actual individual, the customer. So you can see here that we mapped our formula field, right? So we created that new formula field to use to have that unique identifier, and we've mapped it to the individual field, right? So we wanted to reference that actual customer so we can tie that back together in the unified profile. So, all right, so we can click close here. And then I'll walk one more we can go back to the data streams tab. And then we can click on the contact object in line 8. Yep. So I'll walk you through again what a CRM object would look like, and then we can get started on creating some of these data streams, additional data streams. So you can see here again, this is a profile object category. So this one will be a little similar to that enterprise data stream that we first looked at. You see, we do have formula fields, but we don't have a formula field to create a new primary key because the Salesforce CRM ID is actually our primary key. So there wasn't a need to create this unique identifier for that data source. So if you scroll back up, we'll just look at the fields that have been mapped on the right. If you click on the review button under data mapping, all right, so you can see that we have an account contact. So this is a DMO that is referring to the contact of an account. So again, there's similar mappings that we did. So if you look, it's the fourth field at the bottom, starting from the bottom. If you see there's an individual field, right? So again, each of these objects will have that reference, a field that reference back to that individual, to that customer. So you can see that we've mapped our contact ID field to that individual field. And you actually can see that that contact ID is mapped to a bunch of different objects and a bunch of different fields. So if you scroll further down to the right, you'll see the different objects that we've mapped to again. So the contact has address information that we would like to use in identity resolution and segmentation. So again, we've mapped that contact point address field. You can see the contact point email field as well. If you scroll all the way down.
190.
And you can scroll all the way down a little bit, yeah, just to show the other objects that we've mapped to, right? So you can see we also have mapped the individual object with some of those custom fields and also the party identification object. Yeah, and you can see again, if you might not be able to see it since it's up there, but the party field is also mapped to that contact ID field. Yeah, if you click that, right. Okay, so we've gone over a quick overview of what we really covered in last week's session. Just thought it would be a good overview of context to see what our current data model looks like. So now let's walk through actually creating a new data stream. If you click, yep. And what we're going to do is add additional objects. Let's say, for this use case, we also want to pull in case information. So we're going to create a new data stream from Salesforce CRM. You click next. And then you have to select your Salesforce org. So these are all the orgs that have already been connected to Data Cloud. So we're going to use the last one, SFMC demo org. So usually there's a few standard data bundles. So you'll see here there's a sales data bundle, and then there's also a service data bundle. We're actually so these are pre-selected objects that, if the use case makes sense, it, could streamline your data streaming process and have all of those objects, create those data streams created and initially mapped quicker than, going individual objects, but we're just going to do one object. So if you click on the All Objects tab, and then again, you'll see all of those objects that live in your Salesforce CRM org that you chose. Yep, we're going to do case. And then we are also going to, yeah, that's perfect. You can click next. And then you can see on your left-hand side that we have object details. So if you hover over the little help icon right next to it, it'll give you a quick explanation of what each category is. So again, that profile category represents an individual. If you are doing more of a B2B data model, it could also represent an account. Engagement captures actual behavior information, so an action. So if they click, they purchase, and then other is more information that's not really related to the profile or engagement information. So like they said here, just a product or store information. So for the case DMO, we are going to, it's really an engagement category. So you can see it's, they're essentially engaging with, if they're creating a case, they might have trouble with the app, or they're having trouble linking their bank account. So with engagement categories, you do have to have, it's time series oriented. So you have to define an event time using one of the date or date time fields that already existed within the object to identify when that event took place or that engagement took place. So we are going to use, for this use case, the created date. So this would reference when the case was created. That's really when the engagement took place for this use case. And then if you scroll down a little bit, we'd have to choose our primary key. So you have to, yeah, there we go. So you can see our primary key is actually already automatically on your left. You can see that the case ID is already chosen for the primary key. So now you can see, if you scroll all the way up again, best practice, is so it's going to have automatically when you create a new data stream, it's going to have all of the fields chosen to be mapped. It's best practice to really only map the fields that you need. So let's just uncheck some of those fields that we might not need. So if you, let's go scroll a little bit further. Let's see what fields we might not need. Let's see. So we can, line 15, that's a custom field in our object that we don't really need for this use case. So we can uncheck that. We could uncheck line 17, last viewed date. We don't really need that for our use case. Last reference date, we don't really need that as well. Yeah. We can uncheck 21 escalated, or sorry, 22 deleted. We scroll down a little bit more, we might need the rest of these fields just in case. So we can uncheck line 31, contact facts. Let's see what else. Okay, we can leave the rest. So again, just remember when you are creating these data streams to make sure that you're only really mapping or pulling in the fields that you necessarily need. You'd also here, as you can see, be able to create a new formula field. For our use case, we don't need to create a new formula field, but as you saw with the other data streams that we've opened previously, this is where you'd create that new formula field as well. Okay, so you can click next, Lakshmi. Awesome. So you can see that the data stream name is already somewhat populated. What it populates it populates the object that you're pulling in and your Salesforce org ID. This is the only place you can edit this data stream name. If you don't do so here, you won't have the opportunity to edit it later. So just keep that in mind. We can leave that as is for now, but I do recommend maybe having a data stream name that's a little bit more identifier, right? So if you have a few Salesforce CRM orgs that you're going to map or pull in those or create those data streams for, it might get you might not be able to identify each CRM org just with the org ID. So you could name it, since we've connected to the data stream or this, our demo org, you could call it, a demo org, or your first, if there's 5 banks that have separate CRM orgs, you could name it bank, whatever each bank name is. So again, just making it identifiable for the user, because again, you won't be able to edit that afterwards. The data space is, so we only have one, but if you click on the drop down, So a data space is where you can separate your data. So let's say there are a few use cases where you need to have a data cloud, but you don't want that data to be, you want that data to be separate. So this is where you can get that separation for all of your data sources. So we only have one, so we'll leave that as is. And then you can see that the frequency is already created for you. So it's a batch refresh. And then you can click deploy. When you pull in some of these, so you'll see it's a similar, once the data stream is, so once you click deploy, it automatically creates that data stream. You'll see that we chose the engagement object. And then you see up all the fields that we're pulling in. So with that, yep, you can see here, you can click on the data mapping start button. So when you start from scratch, you have to, and again, I want to point out, I don't think I have today, the planning and design phase is really, really important before you start creating data streams, start mapping those or start pulling in those fields. You really want to understand your data, the data values, the data sources that you have before, what data model objects you're going to map to. You want to have that already prepared and designed before really doing this, because once you make a mistake or something wasn't mapped correctly or well thought out, it's really hard to backtrack and start and try to find a resolution for that issue. So it's really extremely important to take your time in the design phase and really understand what you're going to map to, the fields, your values. Because again, once you start, it's really difficult to change that or start over again. So what we're going to map to here is actually, so if you select your objects, if we want to select here, so what you think about it, so this is an engagement object. So what we're looking to map to is the case DMO here as well. So if you search for case, it should be. Perfect. So you can click on that plus button. Yep. And then you can click on done. Awesome. So you'll see once you click on a DMO itself, or it'll automatically map some of those fields. I do recommend checking each field to make sure it's mapped correctly or the way you want it to be mapped. Sometimes it might not necessarily be that way. So if we click on just on the first one, let's make sure, all right, case ID is mapped to case ID. That's good. Our case number is mapped to case number.
Mm-hmm.
All right, case type. Great. Closed. Awesome. Our created date is mapped to created date. Description. Perfect. Escalated. Yep. Last modified. Yep. Name and subject. Perfect. So if you we'll have to map a little more fields, right? So we know we have a contact ID. We want to make sure that this engagement data gets pulled into that unified profile. So on the unmapped fields, if you scroll down, let's see if there's, right, you see that individual field. Yep, exactly. So you'll actually have to click on the left-hand side, the contact ID field, and then that individual field. Awesome. Okay, so now let's see if, perfect. Let's see on the left-hand side what other fields we would like to map. So actually, we have a contact email field as well on our case object, I believe, if we could try to find that. On the left-hand side, Lakshmi. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Perfect. So there's actually two. So you see there's an email address field and a contact email. I want to see before we map actually which field that org is using. So again, this is why it's important to understand the fields that you're pulling in. So you can run into this issue, right? So you could have two fields and you might not really remember, off the bat, what field is actually using or has that contact email. So actually, let me just check really quickly what field we're using. All right, so it looks like for our case object, we're using that contact email field. So if you see that, yep, so you can click here and let's see if the case DMO on the right has an email field or a contact.
We have this one.
Let's see, so that email messages relationship. So let me see. So again, you might not, this is where the Salesforce documentation comes handy. So they've outlined each DMO. So I'm actually looking at what that email messages field description is. And it's not necessarily what we're looking for. So this is the that email messages field is really just the actual emails for the case. Let's see if there's another field that might make more sense. If not, we can create a custom field. So it doesn't seem like there is a field for a contact email. So let's create a new field. Yep, you can click on that add new field button. Or we have to save our mappings first. Okay, so if you scroll up and then just save, yep. Perfect. So if you go down and add a new field, you can call this contact email. And then in the data type, we will do email. And then you can click save. So now once that new field is now created and it loads, we can map our case data stream contact email field to that new field that we created. There it is. Yep. Perfect. So let's also check what other fields on our left that we want to map to. So let's see, starting from the top. Okay, so you'll see so we don't have the case origin or case reason fields mapped. So let's actually map those and see. So let's start with the case origin field. So on your left, yeah, if you click that, let's see if there's a case origin field that we want to map to. Case, let me check the documentation to see also. All right, yeah, so it looks like we could map to the origin field. So further down, yep, exactly. So I actually have the Salesforce documentation of that case DMO object open. So just helpful again to see the description of each field coming from the DMO, because you might not necessarily understand what that field is intended to be used for. So again, it's helpful to have a good understanding of what fields you're going to map, what fields from your data stream you're going to map to each data model object. All right, so let's also map the case reason field from our data stream. So right below that. Yeah, let's see what DMO field we could map to that. Let me also check.
Oh, can you share the link to that documentation?
Yeah.
Just so, thank you.
Definitely.
It's so cool.
I was about to ask that, Tim, actually. Thanks.
I should have done that. Yeah, thank you. Here we go.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's actually look and see what field would make sense. I would think there is a reason field. Just want to find it.
It's a case closure reason is there on DMO.
Let's see. So the case closure would be the reason the case was closed.
Yeah.
The case reason that we are looking for is more of why, really kind of the reason the case was open. So let's see if there's another field. If not, we could also create a custom field. So detective reference ID.
So what would be the case category on the DMO?
Yeah, let me see. Sorry, I'm still looking at the fields. I just want to make sure we're not missing one of the standard fields before we map, but it doesn't seem like there's one. All right, so I didn't see one. So let's actually create a new field, a custom field.
Do I need to save?
Oh, yes, you always, yeah, it gets me every time. You'll have to save before you can create a new field. Yeah, I think we could just call it case reason to just, keep the naming convention similar.
Do I need to give space?
It doesn't matter. That's your use case. And then we could just have this a text field. Yep. And before, that's all right. So you saw there that there's the enable value suggestion checkbox. So what that checkbox is before you create a new field, you can, if you check that, let's say you have like a pick list field or a text field that will have similar values. So when it enables value suggestion, let's say there might be a typo in a field value, it'll actually suggest the value that the field is supposed to have. So that is helpful for some of those fields. If you do have like pick list field, it might be helpful to check that just to make sure that those values coming in are correct.
Okay, just one question.
So, yeah.
Can I edit just create a custom field here, or do I need to delete and then freshly create?
If you will not be able to edit. That's a good question. So you would have to actually let's do that. Actually, we might be able to edit, not here, but you can edit it, I believe, in
Explorer.
The data model tab. So if you click save before we exit here, and then we'll come back to the mapping. And we could, so then at the top, there's a data model tab right next to data lake object.
Yeah.
Yep. So your list view, your automatic list view will be your mapped data model. Yeah, so if you open that, so that is the case data model object coming from Data Cloud. We look for that field here. Yeah, case reason. Yeah, so you won't be able to edit it here. So again, you could delete the field and we could create a new one here. And let's say this field was mapped, you would not be able to delete it. It would probably likely give you some sort of error messaging saying it's used in mapping. So you would have to unlink that relationship before deleting this field. So again, The design phase is important because once you map all these fields and you realize there might have been something missing or mismatched mapping, you'll have to unlink all the relationships you've already mapped and really start all over, which is really time consuming and also runs into more of the
So
contact counts and pricing. Yep, go ahead.
Now we need to go back to the DMO, DSO one, right?
Yes,
Can we create,
exactly.
Yeah, can we create the custom field here? No.
If you click that edit button at the top,
Okay.
top right.
Yeah.
So if you go all the way down, there should be an add field. Yep, you can do that here. So we can call this case reason. So really, you can see that there's two ways to, create new fields. I personally just, if you're in the mapping, it depends on your processes, but again, you could create all the new fields here before even starting your mapping, or you can start the mapping and create those fields as well. So yeah, you can select that, and then we can click save.
Data
Perfect.
streams.
Yes, you can go to the data streams. It might take a little bit. You can see that the object status is processing, so it might take a bit. Hopefully, I think just a few minutes to have that new field available, but we can just go check in the data stream. Yeah, you can click that. And then, yep, case. Then review. So our case reason, see here. Might be further down. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so we have the case reason mapped. Let's see what other field that isn't mapped necessarily that we might need. So on our left, we have a closed date field. Yeah, we would want to map that. So let's go to our right and see if there's a closed date field. Perfect. Yep. So it's closed date time. And then back to our left. Let's see what other fields we need to map. So we see we have a contact mobile and contact phone. Another good example, right? Understanding your field, your data source field and your data. So, right, which field is actually being used in our CRM org. So we're actually using the contact phone. So we can map that contact phone. Let's see if I'm not sure if there's going to be a field for that, but again, we could create a custom field. Let me check the documentation too as you scroll. Right, doesn't look like there's a phone field for the contact. So let's create a custom field for that as well. All right, we have to save before. Yeah, so we can call it contact phone just to make sure that we're aligning that well. Perfect. And we can do phone, yep. And then save. Then we can map that, yep. Perfect. Okay, so let's see what other fields we need to map. Let me check. If we scroll up to, I don't remember if the account. All right, so account isn't mapped either. So for our case records, there is an account tied to the contact. So we'd like to map the account as well. So if we do the account ID, and let's see if there's I believe there's an account case DML field. Perfect. Yep, there's the account. So we can map that. Let's see what other fields. Perfect. Base source, no. Scroll down a little bit. Let's see what other fields. Contact phone, email address.
Owner ID?
Yeah, let's map the owner ID. Okay, let's see. Doesn't look like there's an owner. Oh, maybe it's the assigned. Let me just double check. It might be that assigned user, but let's check. Yep, so it's the reference ID. So the description for that field is a reference ID to the assigned customer support rep. So that's perfect. So we're going to map our owner ID to that assigned user field. Perfect. Let's see what other fields we need. Let's map. So the internal comments field, we'd want to map that as well. So let's map. Let's see which field we can map to. So there's a case comments field, but again, I'm going to double check to make sure that's, yep, the comments for the case. Perfect. Then let's see what other fields we have.
Priority?
Yeah, priority is yep, you're going to need to map that one. Case priority, perfect. Status will be another one, yep. Case status. Let's see what else.
Parent case ID to parent case?
Yes, let's do, yep, parent case. So we'll map that to our parent case. That's a good call out. Thank you. And I think that's it. Did we map so I can't remember if we mapped did we have a contact phone field or is that the phone field? We did have a contact phone. Yep, perfect.
Yep.
Okay. And I think.
And what's this master record ID and?
So that's the record ID. We don't really necessarily need to map that ID field. Yeah, I think we're good there. Let's see what else. I think that should be it. All right, yeah, I think that looks good. So we can actually save and close, yeah. Perfect. So now we have all of these fields mapped. So now once you create map your data stream to a data model object, it'll start, Data Cloud would automatically create what's called relationships. So if you go back to the data model tab and open the case DMO there. Perfect, yeah. Awesome. So if you scroll up a little bit, and you'll see right next to the details tab, there's a relationships tab. Yeah. So this is created when you're mapping the DMOs. And actually, I can show you another one too, just 'cause there might be a little bit more relationships with a profile object. But so you'll see here, again, this is something once it loads, you'll want to review to make sure this is correct. And this is important to understand. All right, so we'll give it a minute or two. If not, we can kind of see it already. I can just walk through each of the relationships that it created. So I'll just walk through and then we can probably open another one just to show a little bit more relationships. But we'll stay, yeah, perfect here. Nice. So that worked. So if you, yeah, we open up the individual object here. Sorry, we've mapped a bunch of data streams to this. There's quite a few relationships here. So once that opens, I think in your first tab, Lakshmi, the case relationships did load. So while we wait for that one, perfect. So you'll see here, right? So we are seeing the relationships to the object. So we map to the case object. So you'll see we mapped an account field, right? So that's the related object is actually the account object, and that has a many-to-one relationship. You have the ability to edit these relationships. So you can see the parent case also has many-to-one, and then also when it's the relationship between the individual is also many-to-one. So you could add many cases to that one individual. You can see on your right the related objects, right? And then the related field that it's using for this relationship. So it's the account ID, the case ID, and the individual ID. So if you go back or to your second tab, Lakshmi, to see if the individual data model object loaded yet.
Just one question. Why this is blank here on the row 1?
That's a good question. So it's blank because there isn't essentially like a qualifier field. So we're not using, so we have a B2C. So you can see that we are mapping to an individual. We're not mapping, or our data model is not to an account.
Okay.
So the key qualifier is, there's no, in a sense, the key qualifier there.
No?
So yeah, if you go to your second tab to see the individual, see if that, perfect. So if we click on relationships, right? So you can see this one's, this is a profile object. So there's going to be a lot of different relationships here. So you'll see these are all the objects that we've really mapped to, and some of these are automatically created once you start mapping. So you'll see we have the account contact, right? So that key qualifier field, as you can see, Lakshmi, is that individual ID, right? Because we're using that B2C data model and we're mapping to an individual and not really account to account. So that's what the relationship is creating here. You'll see there's the contact point. So fields are line 3 to 5. Those are also those attributes that we map, more of that demographic data for each, phone, email, and address. So you see that the field here is party, right? So again, we talked about how that party is referring back to the actual individual themselves. So that's the field that's creating this relationship. And then you'll see we have the party identification object as well. And you can see here, it's the same field, that party field, right? Because that's what's creating that unification or that relationship and being able to match all these individual records to that one unified profile record. And then also, you can see in line 7, so we didn't talk about this, but we've mapped Marketing Cloud as well. We've connected data streams to Marketing Cloud. You can see that the field is the subscriber key. So you'd see that similarly with, any of your Marketing Cloud data, if you were connecting that as well, you'd have that subscriber key again, which typically for, at least in our use case, and typically that would be also the contact ID. So again, Data Cloud is doing its magic and finding all these IDs that match and creating that unified profile. And then on the right, or the related field, right? You'll see that the related field is always that individual ID, because that's how we're going to create that unified profile. And if you were to click on the edit button, I just wanted to show you what that would look like. So if you scroll down a little bit, so you can so this is where you'd say, these are active relationships. You necessarily can't edit some of these relationships because these are just the standard data model, but you could create a new relationship here with a new object that we haven't mapped yet. So I just wanted to show you quickly what that would look like. Then we can click cancel or save and close. Yeah. Right, exactly. So actually, yeah, let's walk through this really quick. We have 2 minutes. So this is the field that we want to map to from the individual objects. If you click and select an option. So these are the individual object fields that we already have, right? So, we'd have to choose a unique identifier here, which would be that individual ID. And then our cardinality. So it would be, many-to-one, one-to-one.
Is it not one to
For
one?
this, yeah, we won't create a new one, but you could do one-to-one, yeah. And then for the related object, so it'll give you those DMOs that we've mapped to. So you could, let's do a contact point email for now, just to show you what it would look like. We won't save it since we already have this relationship built. But if you needed to add a new one, and then you can select that related field, right? So we'd use that party field, right? Because that's what's mapping back to the individual itself. So that's how you would create a new relationship if you really needed to. But again, it's very important to just review these relationships to make sure they were created and also have an understanding of how they're related. So yeah, you can delete that. And then we can click save save and close. So I think that's a good spot to end. We can pick this up next week. Thank you, Lakshmi, for being patient and going through this session today. I really appreciate everyone's time. And yeah, hopefully folks can join next week, so we'll just continue this session as well. Awesome. JB, anything on your end before we end, or not? We can just end next week. We have the session, same date, same time.
Hey, thanks, Michelle, and thanks, Lakshmi. Thanks, team. And thanks, everyone, for staying on. And I hope this session is helpful to you. I'll be sharing the recording soon. And thanks very much, Michelle. We'll see you again next week.
Thanks, everyone.
And yeah, and a reminder, we do have the deep dive session next week with on Tuesday around the same time, 8 a.m. Eastern. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks all. Bye-bye.